After I called off the engagement, the Special Forces king went crazy. I followed Lu Feng for 10 years, from the age of 20 to 30. I devoted my best years to being his personal assistant. I cooked for him, managed all his trivial matters, and gave up 3 promotion opportunities for him. Everyone said that it was a blessing of a lifetime for me, when to marry Lu Feng, the youngest commander of the Special Forces. But what I waited for was not a wedding dress. Instead, at the military commendation ceremony, he personally placed the third-class merit that should have been mine on another woman's chest. In that moment, I laughed. That night, I called off the engagement and applied to be transferred to the most arduous frontier unit in the country. He thought I was just being petulant. When don't act spoiled, come back in a month, and I'll pretend nothing happened. He didn't know that once I left, I never intended to look back. Later, I heard that the once arrogant soldier king was searching for me frantically all over the world. Chapter 1, the recipient of the third-class merit in the Red Blade operation, Comrade Su Qing. The broadcast echoed with an inspiring voice, and the spotlight suddenly shone on Su Qing, dressed in a brand new military uniform. Her face radiated uncontrollable joy and pride, like a blooming sunflower. I sat in the audience as thunderous applause roared around me, the sound ringing in my ears. My fingertips were ice cold. I slowly clenched my hand, nails digging into my palm. Operation Red Blade was a 6-month-long border defense IT research project. Those 180-plus days and nights were what I and my tech team had poured ourselves into, line by line of code, sheet by sheet of schematics, all hard-won. At the celebration banquet for the project's success, Lu Feng raised his glass, and for the first time, I saw him wear such an easy, relaxed smile in front of me. He said, "You've worked hard. You truly deserve this third-class merit." I believed him, but now, standing on the awards stage, basking in unparalleled glory, is Su Qing. She is the daughter of the division commander, transferred here as a psychological counselor just 2 months ago. She is charming and lively, loved by everyone. She visited the project team only 3 times, each time bringing Lu Feng his favorite iced Americano. I looked up, my gaze fixed on Lu Feng at the very center of the rostrum. He was dressed in a sharply pressed officer's woolen uniform, the stars on his epaulets gleaming. He personally picked up the gleaming gold medal, leaned forward slightly, and with great care, pinned it onto Su Qing's chest. The distance was too great. I couldn't make out the expression on his face, but I could see Su Qing looking up at him, her eyes sparkling like stars. I could also see the less than half arm's length distance between them as he adjusted Su Qing's medals. Lu Feng has a strong sense of personal space, never allowing anyone to get that close to him except for me. For 10 years, I thought I was the only exception. After 10 years of effort, it turns out it's not worth even a single smile from her. When you really are a joke. A chill shot up from my feet to the top of my head, and it felt like all the blood in my body had frozen in an instant. I laughed, silently, until tears almost came to my eyes. A colleague next to me nudged my arm and whispered, "What's going on? Isn't this supposed to be your credit?" Exactly. Why did Director Lu give the credit to Su? She's only just arrived. I shook my head, my smile polite and proper. Follow orders. The murmurs around me gradually subsided. Yes, he's the commander, and his decisions are orders. The meeting ended, and the crowd dispersed. Lu Feng was surrounded by a group of people, with Su Qing by his side, chattering away and making everyone around laugh heartily. Lu Feng's gaze swept across the crowd before settling on me. He seemed on the verge of saying something, but merely furrowed his brow before being swept away by the crowd. That look carried a hint of placid reassurance, as if to say, "You've always been understanding, you'll get it." I remained where I stood until the corridor was completely empty. That medal that should have been mine feels like a searing needle piercing my heart, magnifying all the grievances and unfulfilled desires I've carried for the past 10 years. I returned to the apartment I share with Lu Feng. This place, called home, is more like his personal logistics base. Day in and day out for 10 years, I've taken care of everything for him here. His various honor photos hang on the walls, his favorite military theories fill the bookshelves, and in the wardrobe, his military uniforms and my casual clothes are neatly separated, like 2 distinct worlds. I walked into the closet and took out my small suitcase. I didn't have much, just a few clothes and some books. It all took 10 minutes to pack. Finally, I pulled open the drawer of the nightstand, where a velvet box lay quietly. Inside was a simple, elegant diamond ring. He said, "Once this mission is over, we'll get married." I picked it up, caressed the cold surface of the ring, and then gently placed it on the nightstand. After doing all this, I took out my phone and sent a message to Lu Feng. No accusations, no arguments, just a few brief words. "Lu Feng, our engagement is off. Then, I blocked him on every platform. I walked out of the house where I'd spent 10 years of my youth, suitcase in hand, without a single regret. The door clicked shut behind me, closing the book on the first half of my life. Chapter 2. When I submitted the transfer application, Director Wang from the political department nearly fell off his chair in shock. Shiyu, are you sure you've got this right? Transferring to Windblade Post, that's the most remote frontier outpost in the country. A godforsaken place where the harsh conditions can wear you down to the bone. I calmly pushed the application form forward. Director Wang, I've thought this through very carefully. Lao Wang stared at me as if I were a monster. You and Lu Feng, aren't you supposed to get married next month? What are you making a fuss about at a time like this? It's over, I said. Lao Wang froze, and the thermos in his hand clattered to the ground, spilling hot water all over. This is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. He scrambled to clean up. You two were the model couple in the military district. How could you just break up like that? Does Lu Feng even know? This is my personal decision. It has nothing to do with him. My attitude was as firm as steel. Lao Wang knew he couldn't persuade me, so he sighed deeply, picked up the pen, and signed my application form. Think carefully. Once this application is submitted, there's no turning back. Thank you, Director. I saluted and turned to leave. No turning back. Just the way I like it. The procedures went exceptionally smoothly, perhaps in everyone's eyes. I was just acting on a whim, going to the frontier to endure a few days of hardship, and would soon be crying to come back. The day I left was overcast. I stood at the gate of the military compound, dressed in casual clothes and pulling my small suitcase. A black SUV came to a stop right in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing Lu Feng's stern face. He looked at me, his brow furrowed, his eyes holding a hint of impatience and an agitation I couldn't understand. Get in, he said in a commanding tone. I didn't move. When Shiyu, I don't have time for this cat-and-mouse game with you. His voice turned cold. Regarding the merit, it was my oversight. Su Qing's father is coming for an inspection next month, and this third-class merit is very important to her. You've always been magnanimous. Why are you being so unreasonable this time? I looked at him and suddenly found it ridiculous. So, in his eyes, my 10 years of dedication, my expertise and hard work, can all be sacrificed. For his human relationships, my magnanimity is just giving in as a matter of course. Commander Lu, I began, my voice so calm that even I was surprised by it. First, please call me Comrade Wen. Second, my transfer is a normal work arrangement and has nothing to do with you. Finally, I wish you and Comrade Su a bright future. After saying that, I pulled my suitcase and turned to walk towards the taxi waiting by the roadside. When Shiyu, Lu Feng's voice carried a mix of surprise and anger. He pushed the car door open and stepped out, grabbing my wrist. His grip was like a vice, his strength astonishing. What do you think you're doing? He stared at me, like a lion provoked. There's a limit to throwing a tantrum. Come back with me, and I can pretend this never happened. I looked at his hand gripping mine. For 10 years, these hands had held me and led me, but in this moment, all I felt was a bone-chilling cold. I didn't struggle. I just lifted my eyes and looked at him quietly. Lu Feng, have you ever thought about what you'd do without me? He was stunned. What do you mean? Your stomach is weak. You can only have the millet porridge I make in the mornings. Your military uniforms have to be hung from left to right, sorted by season. That kaffir lily you've kept for 5 years needs watering every 3 days. I listed, one by one, all the habits etched into my very bones. Do you really think anyone else could manage all that? His expression changed, a flicker of panic in his eyes. Over the years, my presence has been like air, silent and invisible, yet omnipresent. He has long grown accustomed to my care, so much so that he takes it for granted. Are you threatening me? His voice carried a hint of danger. I smiled and gently pulled my hand away from his. No, I'm reminding you. I looked into his eyes and said slowly, from today on, none of this has anything to do with you. When Shiyu, I didn't look back again, opened the car door, and got in. The car started. And in the rearview mirror, Lu Feng's figure grew smaller. He stood there, his straight military uniform looking somewhat lonely under the gloomy sky. He probably thought I was just throwing a tantrum and would soon come crawling back, wagging my tail. He didn't know that when a tree accumulates enough disappointment, it uproots itself and never looks back. Chapter 3. From the military headquarters to Windblade Outpost. It takes 8 hours on a military transport plane, then 4 hours on An off-road vehicle, and finally 2 hours of bumpy travel on rugged mountain roads. As I dragged my suitcase and stood at the entrance of this legendary outpost, the setting sun was painting the distant snow-capped mountains in shades of golden red. The wind was fierce, cutting against my face like a blade, carrying with it a raw, rugged essence. The outpost was small, with a few rows of gray single-story buildings and a fluttering 5-starred red flag that stood out vividly against the vast, empty Gobi Desert. A young soldier in camouflage training gear ran over, curiously examining me. "Are you the new comrade one?" I nodded. "My name is Shertu. The company commander sent me to pick you up." He scratched his head and chuckled. "It's been years since we've had a female comrade here, especially one from headquarters. It's quite a rare occasion." I followed him inside. The outpost was very quiet, and occasionally I could see a few patrolling soldiers, all of them tanned but with remarkably bright eyes. The door to the company commander's office was open. I knocked on the door. "Come in," a deep male voice responded. I entered. A man stood with his back to me, facing a large sand table. He was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a faded training uniform that outlined his well-defined musculature. He turned around, and I was momentarily stunned. He was young, probably in his late 20s, with a healthy wheat-colored complexion, deep-set features, and eyes as sharp as an eagle's, yet his lips curled up slightly, carrying a hint of a mischievous smile. "You're Winsheryu." He scrutinized me openly, his gaze unwavering. "Reporting, Commander, Winsheryu, communications technician of the reconnaissance company, here to report." I stood at attention and saluted sharply. He returned the salute, leaning lazily against the table. "Lin Ran, commander of the Wind Blade Outpost Reconnaissance Company. This is Lin Ran." Before coming, I looked up his background. Lin Ran comes from a military family. His grandfather was a founding general, and his father is the current commander of a group army. However, he himself was notorious as a troublemaker at the military academy. After graduation, he voluntarily applied to come to this most arduous outpost and has been here for 5 years. The delicate young lady from headquarters, "What brings you to our neck of the woods?" He raised an eyebrow, his tone tinged with a hint of teasing. "Looking to experience life." I didn't answer, just calmly looked at him. Lin Ran seemed a bit bored and waved his hand. "All right, Shertu, take her to the dorm. Our conditions here are rough. Don't let the flower from headquarters freeze." My dorm is at the far east end, a tiny single room with a wooden bed, a table, and a cabinet. That's all. Outside the window is the endless Gobi Desert, desolate yet vast. That evening, the outpost held a simple welcome gathering. A bonfire crackled to life on the Gobi Desert. The soldiers sat around it, roasting mutton and drinking heartily. Lin Ran cradled a guitar, singing a folk song I'd never heard before. His voice was raspy, yet carried a wild, untamed spirit. "Little sister, you boldly stride ahead, and never look back." The song drifted on the night wind. I pulled my overcoat tighter and took a sip of the hot tea in my hands. Everything here is so different from headquarters. No fancy apartments, no neatly pressed military uniforms, no carefully managed interpersonal relationships, only the wind, only the fire. Only a group of the purest soldiers. A young soldier, blushing, handed me a sizzling lamb leg. "Comrade Win, try this. Our Captain Lin is a master at grilling." I took it, thanked him, and took a bite. It was hot and fragrant. After finishing his song, Lin Ran walked over and sat down beside me, handing me a bottle of beer. "Have some." I shook my head. "I can't." He didn't push it and took a big gulp himself, then looked at me. Still thinking about him, I was stunned. "Out of the 10 who come from headquarters, 8 are here for heartbreak." He chuckled, his eyes clear. "But let me give you a piece of advice. It's not worth coming all the way here for a man." "It's not for a man," I said softly, watching the flickering flames. "It's for myself." Lin Ran raised an eyebrow, seemingly taken aback. He stared at me for a few seconds before suddenly breaking into a grin. "Interesting. Well then, let's see what kind of flower a delicate bloom from headquarters can grow into here at Winds Edge Outpost." With that, he stood up and walked back to the bonfire, joining the other soldiers in their laughter and banter. Watching his back, for the first time, I felt that coming here might have been the right decision. Chapter 4. My job at Phonran Outpost is to maintain communication equipment and analyze data. The equipment at the outpost is very outdated, mostly models discarded by headquarters. With a very high failure rate, in the first week, I practically lived in the communications room. It was like a junkyard, filled with disassembled parts and dusty circuit boards. I inspected all the equipment, categorized them, and made detailed records and contingency plans for any potential issues. The soldiers initially doubted this parachuted-in female officer, but as they saw me emerge from the machine room every day, covered in grime and with hands stained with oil or solder, their attitudes gradually changed. The turning point came on a snowy, stormy night. That night, the wind howled like wolves, and heavy snow sealed off the mountain passes, cutting us off almost completely from the outside world. Suddenly, the outpost's long-range radar monitoring system blared a piercing alarm, its screen flickering with static. "What's going on?" Lin Ran was the first to burst into the communications room, his face ashen. "Report, company commander, radar signal lost. It's likely a line fault caused by the blizzard." The soldier on duty, sure too, was frantic, sweat beading on his forehead. "This radar system is our eyes. If it malfunctions in such weather, we're as good as blind. If foreign infiltrators take advantage of this, the consequences would be unimaginable. Where's the repair team? Go check the lines right now," Lin Ran shouted. "It's no use, Commander. The snow is too heavy. No one can get up the mountain." The communication room was eerily silent, with everyone at a loss for what to do. I squeezed in front of the mainframe and quickly glanced at the back-end data stream. "It's not an issue with the external lines," I said, my voice soft but distinct in the quiet room. "The C3 module in the core processor is overloaded, causing the data stream to crash." All eyes were on me. Lin Ran looked at me. "Are you sure? I can?" I pulled the keyboard closer, my fingers flying across the keys as I pulled up a string of complex code. "Look here, the data is normal before it enters the C3 module, but the output is all garbled. That's where the problem is." An older technician frowned. "The C3 module is the encryption core. Tampering with it affects the entire system, and none of us dare touch it. Besides, it's a 10-year-old model. Even headquarters can't find replacement parts." "No need for a replacement," I said, picking up a nearby screwdriver and soldering iron. "Give me 10 minutes." Under the astonished and uncertain gazes of everyone present, I opened up the main chassis. That little C3 module, I know it all too well. 10 years ago, for my graduation project at the National University of Defense Technology, I worked on the optimization algorithm for this very system. I proposed a bypass design back then, but my advisor shot it down for being too radical. Who would have thought it would come in handy here? A decade later, I took a deep breath, carefully melted through 3 connection wires with the soldering iron, and then used a spare copper wire to rebuild a miniature circuit. My hands were steady, unnervingly steady for someone who hadn't touched a soldering iron in 10 years. All the knowledge and skills I had shelved for Lu Feng's sake came flooding back to life in that moment. Done. I closed the computer case and hit the restart button. Everyone held their breath. The computer emitted a soft beep, the screen flickered a few times, and then, the clear radar scan image reappeared on the display. "It's back. The signal is back," Stone shouted excitedly. The communications room erupted in thunderous cheers. Lin Ran walked over to me, his gaze shifting from the steady data stream on the screen to my grease-stained hands, a complex expression in his eyes. He didn't say a word, just gave my shoulder a firm pat. Early the next morning, Lin Ran summoned me to his office. He slid a manila folder across the desk toward me. "I reviewed your file again," he said, his tone no longer teasing. "National University of Defense Technology, School of Information Engineering, top of your class, core engineer of the Red Blade project. Wenshiyu, what exactly are you doing at headquarters?" Inside the file was a photo of me from 10 years ago. The girl in the photo, wearing a graduation gown, smiled confidently and boldly, her eyes shining with light. I stared at that photo, silent for a long time. What am I even doing? I'm learning how to cook soup, arrange flowers, and how to be the perfect, selfless housewife. I almost forgot. I used to be that spirited girl who wanted to change the world with code. The past is past. I closed the file and whispered, "Commander, I request to join the Red Dawn project team. The Qishao project, a high-altitude drone reconnaissance initiative currently being pursued by Fengren Post, has been stalled for nearly half a year due to technical bottlenecks." Lin Ran looked at me, and for the first time, his eyes showed genuine appreciation. "Good." He stood up, extending his hand toward me. "Welcome back, Engineer Wen." I grasped his hand. His palm was broad, warm, and dry. Radiating Strength, Chapter 5. In the first month after I left headquarters, Lu Feng's life descended into chaos. In the mornings, he could no longer get his millet porridge at the perfect temperature. The breakfast delivered by the orderly was cold soy milk and fried dough sticks. One bite was enough to give him a stomachache. He went to the changing room to change clothes and found all his military uniforms crumpled together. It took him half an hour to find one that was neatly pressed. Arriving at the office, he saw a mountain of documents waiting to be processed. It was then that he remembered how I used to categorize them, prioritize them by urgency, and attach summaries. Now, he had to go through them one by one, leaving him feeling dizzy and overwhelmed. During a crucial military exercise planning meeting, he was publicly reprimanded by the Chief of General Staff for a data error in a report. That data was something I stayed up for 3 straight nights to help him verify. After the meeting, his adjutant cautiously reminded him, "Commander, your schedule." For next week, Lu Feng impatiently interrupted, "Do I really need to teach you this? Just follow the previous procedures." The adjutant looked troubled and said, "But it was always arranged by Officer Wen in the past. Her work log is password protected, and we can't access it." Lu Feng's face instantly darkened. For the first time, he realized that the name Wen Shiyu was like an invisible web, already woven into every corner of his life. He grew irritable and quick-tempered. Everyone at the base felt their commander had become a walking powder keg lately, ready to explode at the slightest spark. Su Qing still brought him coffee every day, chattering away about the amusing happenings around the base. He used to find this liveliness endearing. Now, he just found it noisy. "Brother Lu, what's wrong? You don't seem yourself lately," Su Qing asked with concern as she placed the coffee on his desk. Lu Feng looked at the cup of coffee and suddenly asked, "Do you know how to make millet congee, Su?" Qing was taken aback. "Huh, millet congee, never mind." Lu Feng waved his hand dismissively. "You can go, I have work to do." Su Qing left. Feeling wronged, Lu Feng picked up his phone, instinctively wanting to dial the number he knew by heart. Instead, a message popped up on the screen, "The other party has blocked you." It was only then that he remembered I had blocked him. A surge of inexplicable anger rose within him, and he slammed the phone to the ground. The phone screen was shattered. He started using his connections to try to find out where I went, but my transfer went through a special procedure and was classified as confidential. The more he couldn't find me, the more anxious he became. For the first time, he tasted the bitterness of losing control when Shiyu, who had always followed him, gentle and obedient, had vanished from his world as if she had evaporated into thin air. He began to suffer from insomnia, staring blankly at the empty half of the bed night after night. He couldn't understand why she had reacted so strongly. It was just a third-class merit. After all, she wasn't like this before. He remembered the question I asked him before I left. "Lu Feng, have you ever thought about what you would do without me?" At the time, he thought it was a joke. Now, he realized he truly didn't know what to do. A month later, the deadline he had spoken of arrived. He waited all day, but neither my call nor I showed up. It finally dawned on him that I wasn't just throwing a tantrum. I had truly, and for good, left him behind. A wave of sheer panic seized him, like a cornered beast gone mad. He cast aside his ridiculous pride for the first time and began searching for me everywhere. Chapter 6. Fengren Outpost's Qishao Project, formerly known as the High Altitude Long Endurance Unmanned Reconnaissance Aircraft Project. Its objective is to develop a UAV capable of conducting uninterrupted reconnaissance missions exceeding 72 hours in the extreme high altitude conditions of hypoxia, low temperatures, and strong winds. The project has been stalled for half a year, mainly due to technical bottlenecks in energy and flight control algorithms. On my first day joining the project team, Lin Ran granted me the highest level of access. The team members are all seasoned technical veterans, and while they don't say it, they harbor doubts about this young female officer. I didn't explain, and directly requested all the experimental data from the past 6 months. I spent 3 days and 3 nights in the server room, recalculating all the data models. On the 4th morning, with 2 dark circles under my eyes, I walked into the conference room with a brand new design proposal. "I believe we were on the wrong track," I said directly. "In high-altitude environments, the efficiency of traditional lithium battery power supply schemes will drop by over 40%. We should abandon single energy sources and switch to a hybrid power supply mode using solar plus solid Hydrogen, nonsense, the team leader, an old engineer named Lee, immediately retorted, a hybrid power system would add at least 30% more weight, severely affecting the drone's aerodynamic design and flight duration. The weight issue can be resolved by optimizing the flight control algorithm. I turned on the projector, and an incredibly complex fluid dynamics model appeared on the screen. I've designed a completely new bio-inspired flight control algorithm that mimics the gliding posture of a plateau eagle. It maximizes the use of updrafts, reducing energy consumption during gliding to nearly zero. This way, the extra weight is completely offset by the energy saved. A heavy silence fell over the conference room. Everyone was stunned by the algorithm model on the screen, a piece of engineering so intricate it resembled a work of art. Engineer Lee opened his mouth to object, but no words came out. He knew, in theory, this solution was flawless. Everyone can talk big on paper, eh? Young technician muttered softly, can a simulated environment be the same as the real thing? Then let's give it a try. Lin Rant's voice rang out. He had been standing by the door, not knowing how long he had been listening. He walked in, his eyes burning with intensity as he looked at me. What support do you need? People, equipment, funding, just name it. I looked at him and nodded. I'll need the best machine tool in the outpost, and you'll have to lend me your pride and joy, Lin Rant's. Pride and Joy was a German-imported, 5-axis machining center with a precision of 0.001 mm. It was the only one of its kind in the entire Northwest military region, and he was usually so protective of it he hardly used it himself. Lin Rand smiled. No problem. From today on, consider it yours. For the next 2 months, I practically lived in the lab. I led the project team to redesign the drone's body, optimize the placement of solar panels, and personally machined the core valve of the solid hydrogen fuel tank. The most challenging part was writing and debugging the flight control algorithm. Countless nights, Lin Ran and I, each with a cup of strong tea, sat in front of the computer, repeatedly reviewing lines of code. He doesn't understand technology, but he always comes up with some imaginative yet crucial questions from a commander's perspective. When I get stuck in a rut, Shiu, if this drone were your soldier, what would you want it to learn first on the battlefield? It's survival. That's right, don't always think about making it fly higher and faster. First, teach it how to survive in the harshest conditions. His words struck a chord with me. I began incorporating more fault tolerance and adaptive logic into the algorithm, allowing it to make optimal decisions autonomously based on environmental changes, much like a true living organism. Gradually, the way the project team looked at me completely changed. They no longer called me Comrade Wen but respectfully addressed me as Engineer Wen. I was no longer the shadow following Lu Feng, always mimicking his every move. I wore a training uniform stained with oil, my hair randomly tied back, eating in the mess hall with a group of rough guys, discussing the latest technical challenges. I've lost weight and tanned, but my eyes have grown brighter. I feel like a seed that slept for 10 years, finally breaking through the soil in the barren yet free land of Fengren Post, growing wildly against the wind. Chapter 7. Lu Feng arrived at the Wind Blade outpost the day before the first test flight of the Crimson Dawn drone, a military helicopter, without any prior notice, suddenly landed on the outpost's helipad. The powerful downdraft kicked up gravel and sand, which clattered against the windows. I was in the lab doing the final checks when the commotion startled me, and I frowned. Lin Rand burst in from outside, his face looking grim. Headquarters sent someone. My heart skipped a beat. By the time we reached the helipad, the helicopter's door was already open. Lu Feng jumped down from the helicopter, dressed in a black tactical suit. 2 fully armed guards followed behind him. He had lost weight, with dark circles under his eyes, but his gaze was as sharp as a blade. His gaze swept past everyone, locking onto me with unwavering intensity. In that moment, it was as if I had returned to the past, to the Wen Shi who would feel flustered at just a glance from him. But in just a second, I regained my composure. Commander Lu, Wind's Edge outpost is a restricted military zone. Your helicopter landing without authorization is a breach of security protocols. Lin Rand stepped forward, blocking my path with unwavering composure. Lu Feng didn't even glance at him, walking straight toward me. His presence was so commanding that the surrounding soldiers instinctively took a step back. He stopped when he reached me. He looked at me, at the training uniform stained with oil on my body, at my lips dried and cracked by the wind, and his brow furrowed even tighter. Have you had enough of your nonsense? His voice was hoarse, tinged with suppressed anger. Come back with me. I looked at him as if he were a stranger, reporting to Commander Lu. This is my post, Please do not interfere with my mission. My voice was calm, without a ripple. Lu Feng's pupils contracted sharply. He probably didn't expect me to speak to him in such a formal tone. When he took a step forward, trying to grab my hand. Lin Ran suddenly stretched out his arm and blocked in front of him. Commander Lu, please behave yourself. Lin Ran's voice turned cold. When is now part of my reconnaissance unit, executing a top-secret mission. If you have any business, please apply through the proper channels at the military district. Who do you think you are? Get out of the way. Lu Feng was completely enraged and shoved Lin Ran aside. He stared at me intensely, his eyes bloodshot. You're really going to defy me, aren't you? Just for some petty merit, you're willing to destroy our 10 years of relationship. Do you even know how I've been living these past few months? Lu Feng, I interrupted him. I looked up and met his gaze. Your achievements, your feelings, your life, none of it concerns me anymore, I said to him, enunciating each word. I'm very busy right now. I don't have time for your romantic games. After saying that, I turned to Lin Ran and gave him the first genuine smile I'd had in months. Captain Lin, the airframe check is complete. The flight control system self-test is normal. We're ready for the test flight. My smile pierced Lu Feng's eyes like a needle. He watched me, taking in the easy familiarity and unspoken understanding between Lin Ran and me. The color slowly drained from his face. He'd probably never seen me like this before, confident, bold, radiating a light he had never seen before. That light was not his, nor was it meant for him anymore. When he murmured my name, his voice carrying a hint of pleading. I ignored him and walked to the lab side by side with Lin Ran. Behind me, the roar of the helicopter's rotors echoed, along with the sound of a heart shattering completely. Chapter 8. In the end, Lu Feng left in disgrace. He tried to forcefully take me away, but Lin Ran immediately raised the alert level at the outpost to the maximum. Dozens of armed soldiers surrounded the helicopter, creating an atmosphere of tense confrontation. After a tense half-hour standoff, Lu Feng took a call, his face ashen, and boarded the plane. Just before leaving, he looked back at me through the cabin window, his gaze profound. That look was a tangled web of emotions, anger, resentment, and a trace of something I couldn't decipher. Panic. This whole farce didn't affect the test flight scheduled for the next day. Before dawn, everyone from Windblade Outpost had gathered on a flat patch of the Gobi Desert. The Red Dawn drone stood silently on the launch pad, its silver-gray body gleaming coldly in the early light. It resembled a poised falcon, radiating power. I stood at the control console, performing the final checks. Lin Ran stood beside me, patting my shoulder. Don't be nervous, I trust you. I nodded, took a deep breath, and pressed the launch button. Chi-Shao, launch. Accompanied by a low roar, the drone shot into the sky like a silver bolt of lightning, piercing the heavens. Everyone looked up, holding their breath. On the console screen, streams of data were rapidly refreshing. Altitude, 5,000 meters. Speed, 300 kilometers per hour. Signal, stable. Engage autonomous cruise mode, I commanded. On the screen, the feed from the drone was crystal clear and smooth, showing every detail of a hare sprinting across the ground below. Excellent, we did it. The crowd erupted in thunderous cheers. Soldiers threw their caps into the air, embracing one another in celebration of their hard-won victory. As I watched the silver figure soaring freely through the clouds on the screen, my eyes grew hot with emotion. This was more than just a drone, this was my rebirth. Lin Ran walked over, scooped me up in his arms, and spun me around in place several times. We did it, Xiu, we did it. He laughed like a child, the sunlight on his face brighter than the Gobi Desert sun. I was dizzy from all the spinning, but I couldn't help laughing along with him. In that moment, all the hardship and frustration melted away. I have never felt so light and happy. This is the respect and joy I have earned through my own abilities. The test flight lasted 75 hours. Far exceeding the expected 72 hours, when Chi-Shao landed smoothly on the runway, the entire project team erupted in excitement. This means we have filled the gap in the domestic field of long-endurance unmanned reconnaissance in high-altitude regions. The news spread like wildfire, swiftly reaching the military district headquarters. Chapter 9. The success of the Chi-Shao project sent shockwaves through headquarters. When Xiu, the woman everyone saw as having thrown away her future for love, banished to the frontier, became the focus of the entire military district overnight. Those who once pitied me, felt sorry for me, or laughed at me were all left speechless. They couldn't understand how a personal assistant who only revolved around men could lead such an important military project in just a few months. My records were pulled out again. Top of my class at National University of Defense Technology. Core member of a national research project. those accolades that had been buried for 10 years were shining once more. It finally dawned on people that I wasn't a vine clinging to Lu Feng, but an oak tree capable of growing into a towering giant. Just for love, I willingly dimmed all my brilliance. The headquarters held a grand commendation ceremony for the Qishao project. Lin Ran and I, as project leaders, were specially approved to return to headquarters to attend. It's still that familiar auditorium. This time, however, I went from being in the audience to standing on the stage. As I strode onto the podium in my crisp new officer's uniform, I could feel the weight of countless complex gazes from below. There was shock, admiration, and envy. I saw my former colleagues, their faces a picture of mixed and vivid emotions. I saw Su Qing too. She was sitting in the front row, her face pale. The look in her eyes as she watched me was filled with guilt and disbelief. She probably finally understood what that third-class merit she took from me all those years ago really meant. It wasn't just a small medal, it represented my trampled professionalism and a decade of effort that was completely ignored. The presenter was the commander of the group army, Lin Ran's father, a stern, unsmiling old general with an imposing presence. He personally pinned a second-class meritorious service medal on my chest. Comrade Wen Shiyu, thank you for your outstanding contributions to our nation and the military. His voice was resonant and firm. You are a role model for all our young officers. I straightened my back and rendered a crisp, standard military salute. Serve the people. A sea of camera flashes erupted, capturing this glorious moment. Instinctively, my eyes searched the crowd below for that familiar figure. Lu Feng was not there. I heard he had voluntarily requested solitary confinement after returning from foreign post. He locked himself away. No one knew what he was thinking. After the commendation ceremony came the victory banquet. I became the center of attention, with countless people coming over with glasses in hand to toast me, showering me with all kinds of compliments. I handled everything flawlessly, a polite smile on my face, yet my heart remained utterly calm. The recognition I once craved so desperately, now that I have it, feels rather hollow. Lin Ran stayed by my side, quietly shielding me from many unnecessary social obligations. Not used to it, he asked in a low voice. I shook my head. It just feels pointless. He smiled. All right then, let's go. I'll take you somewhere fun. He took my hand, and we slipped out of the bustling, clinking banquet hall. He took me to a small hill behind the military compound. From here, you can look down on the entire military compound, ablaze with lights. When I was a kid, every time my dad beat me, I'd run up here alone, Lin Ran said, handing me a can of beer. Look, from this vantage point, all those skyscrapers, all that struggle for power and status, it all seems so small, so pointless. I pulled the tab and took a sip. The cold liquid slid down my throat, carrying a hint of bitterness, yet it felt incredibly satisfying. Thank you, Lin Ran, I said softly, gazing at the distant lights. What for? Thank you for helping me find myself again. Lin Ran looked at me, his eyes as gentle as water under the moonlight. Shiyu, it wasn't me who helped you find yourself, he said. You were already remarkable. I just happened to brush away the dust that had settled on you. I smiled, my eyes growing a little moist. Yes, this is who I was always meant to be. Chapter 10. Lu Feng watched my commendation ceremony from the confinement room, via the internal broadcast. On the screen, I stood in a crisp military uniform, a gleaming medal pinned to my chest, my gaze resolute and radiant. Standing beside him was Lin Ran, tall and handsome, his eyes fixed on me with undisguised admiration and affection. They stood together like two poplar trees side by side, a perfect and harmonious match. Lu Feng's heart felt as if it were being crushed by an invisible hand, the pain so intense he could barely breathe. Only now did he realize, belatedly, what he had truly lost. What he lost was not just a housekeeper who would cook porridge for him and take care of his daily life. What he lost was a soulmate who could have stood by his side at the pinnacle of the world. He was the one who pushed her away with his own hands. He was the one who clipped her wings, only to try and drag her back into the cage when she had grown them anew and was ready to soar. How laughable, how pitiful. After the confinement ended, Su Qing's father, the formidable General Lin, sought him out for a personal conversation in the office. Commander Lin slammed a document in front of him. Lu Feng, you have disappointed me greatly. That document was about me. It detailed the astonishing talent and exceptional abilities I displayed in the Qishao project. At the end of the evaluation report, there was a handwritten note from a senior staff officer: this person is worth 3 divisions. Because of your ridiculous personal emotions and poor judgment, we almost lost a strategic talent forever. Commander Lin's voice was filled with fury. Do you deserve the star on your shoulder? Do you deserve the nation's investment in you? Lu Feng hung his head in silence. He had no strength to argue, effective immediately. All your command authority is suspended, said General Lin, looking at him with profound disappointment. Go and reflect on your actions. Come see me when you've figured things out. For the first time in his career, Lu Feng had hit a cold, hard wall. This wall was built by his own hands. He started calling and texting me frantically, but I had already changed my phone number. He went to my old office, our former apartment, and all the places we used to go, but nowhere could I find my shadow. He was like a drowning man, desperately trying to grasp the life-saving straw, only to realize that the straw had already been burned by his own hands. He finally tasted what it was like to feel a piercing pain, what it meant to regret his past actions. Chapter 11. Lin ran and I spent a week at headquarters handling the follow-up handover for the Red Flare project. This week, I felt incredibly fulfilled. I met with the country's top experts every day to discuss future technological directions and participate in planning the next generation of drones. I realized that when I pour all my energy into my passion, the sense of accomplishment and satisfaction is incomparable to any romance. The night before I was to leave headquarters and return to Windblade Outpost, Lin Ran asked me out for a meal. It wasn't at some fancy restaurant, but a roadside food stall. We ordered skewers and beer, sitting on plastic stools and chatting about everything under the sun, just like any other pair of ordinary young people. So, what's the plan for your next move? Lin Ran asked. Complete the mass production and deployment of Qi Shao, and then, I want to pursue a PhD. I said. Swarm drone operations and AI decision-making are the future. Lin Ran looked at me, her eyes sparkling. What a coincidence. I also want to apply for a part-time PhD at the National Defense University, focusing on future battlefield command systems. We exchanged a smile, understanding everything without a word. Halfway through the meal, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a moment, but I still picked up. There was a long silence on the other end. Then, a hoarse voice, one I knew by heart, spoke. Xiu, it's me. It was Lu Feng. I had no idea how he got my new number. I didn't say a word. I watched your award ceremony. His voice was filled with weariness and pain. You were dazzling. You've lost weight. I'm sorry. Xiu, can we go back to how things were? He asked, his voice almost pleading. I held my phone, gazing at the bustling street before me. A constant stream of cars and a steady flow of people. Go back to the past. I smiled. Commander Lu, I calmly began. One must look forward. The past, whether good or bad, is beyond return. I have something else to do, so I'll hang up first. After saying that, I hung up the phone decisively and then blocked him again. Lin Ran quietly watched me the whole time, all sorted. I nodded and raised my beer can. To the past, he raised his can too and clinked it against mine. To the future. Chapter 12. A year later. In the Northwest Theater, an unprecedented joint exercise involving multiple military branches is underway. As the technical director of the Blue Force, I stood in the command cabin, staring at the massive electronic sand table. Standing beside me is the Blue Force commander, Lin Ran. After a year of dedicated work, the Qi Shao drone swarm I developed has become the Blue Force's sharpest spearhead. Swarm 1 is ready. Target, Red Force Command. Requesting authorization to engage. Authorization granted. I commanded calmly on the screen. Hundreds of small drones descended upon the Red Force positions like a swarm of furious hornets. 3 minutes later, the signal confirming the decapitation of the Red Force command center came through. Blue Force victorious. Cheers erupted inside the command vehicle. The exercise concluded, and the General Headquarters conducted a review. As a technical expert, I took the stage to present my report. Dressed in a sharp military uniform, I confidently expounded on the concept of future informationized warfare. Halfway through my presentation, I looked up and scanned the audience. In the corner of the last row, I spotted a familiar figure. It was Lu Feng. He was thinner and quieter than a year ago. He wasn't wearing a general's uniform, just a plain training suit with no rank insignia on his shoulders. He sat there quietly, looking up at me on the stage. Eyes met. In his eyes, there was pain, regret, nostalgia, and a hint of resignation. I gave him a slight nod, not forgiveness, nor a greeting, just a calm farewell to the past. Then, I turned around and continued my report. My world is no longer just about him. My world is the vast expanse of stars and seas, the vast borders of my country, and the technological peaks waiting for me to conquer. The report concluded, and I stepped down from the stage. Lin Ran was waiting for me below the stage, his hand outstretched, with that familiar Sunny smile on his face. Well done, Dr. 1. I placed my hand in his, and we walked out of the auditorium together.